site, I'll be talking about the Native American Code Talkers and what role they played during the wars that they were a part of, and just how important they are to U.S. military. You may think that the first time the Code Talkers were used was during the middle of World War II. That would be incorrect. They were first used during the Meuse-Argonne offensive during World War I in October of 1918. During that battle, 8 Choctaw men who were deployed to France used telephone communications and were very effective, as the Germans couldn't decipher what they were saying in their native tongue. Some examples of their code: they would call artillery big gun, and machine guns were called little gun shoots fast. Cherokee soldiers in the U.S. Army's 30th Infantry Division were similarly employed to transmit coded message under fire during the Second Battle of the Somme in September of 1918. However, they couldn't be fully utilized during World War I, as it was coming to an end. In between both World Wars, Germany sent 24 men to learn different tribal languages, but found little success. When America joined World War II, they did not use code talkers because they learned what Germany did, and even though they were not successful, America did not want to take any chances. Code talkers were first introduced in 1942, when Philip Johnston, a World War I veteran who grew up on the Navajo Reservation, recommended using the Navajo language to the U.S. military, as it had no written alphabet and had a unique syntax and tonal qualities that would defy enemy attempts to intercept the code. He demonstrated that they could receive and transmit a 3-line English message in 20 seconds in battle-like conditions compared to the 30 minutes that were required to safely receive a message. Major General Clayton B. Vogel, commander of the Pacific Fleet's Amphibious Corps, immediately recommended that the Marines recruit 200 Navajos. The first 29 Navajos recruited were in boot camp by May 1942. They had to learn a unique code book, as not all English words that they needed to say were in their native language. For example, they said ironfish for submarine and buzzard for bomber planes. They even tested this new dialect on native-speaking Navajos, and they could not understand what was being said to them. They also could not take that code book into the field for fear that the enemy might get their hands on it. So they studied non-stop for months to memorize a code book that was ever expanding. Because code talkers were so vital to different campaigns, Marine divisions would meet periodically in Hawaii to update them, often creating code shortcuts or introducing new code that had to be learned. By the end of the war, they had 411 code words they had to memorize. The first deployed code talkers were deployed to the Guadalcanal and Pacific Theater in November of 1942. The code talkers participated in every Pacific landing the Marines conducted between 1942 and 1945. They worked in teams of 2. Some code talkers were deployed on D-Day. 14 Comanche code talkers were assigned to the 4th Infantry during the landing in Normandy. Some of their code words they didn't have terms for in Comanche, so they would call some code words code phrases. A few examples would be turtle per tank, bombers were called pregnant plane, and Adolf Hitler was known as crazy white man. Some code talkers from the Meskwaki tribe were even deployed to North Africa to fight the Germans. One of the most important battles the code talkers took part in was the Battle of Iwo Jima. For the first 2 days of combat, 60 code talkers sent and received over 800 messages without a single error. 5th Marine Division Singles Officer Major Howard Connor was quoted stating, "Were it not for the Navajos, the Marines would never have taken Iwo Jima." By the time World War II came to a close, the Marine Corps had employed 540 Native soldiers for service, and of that bunch, around 400 soldiers from different tribes such as Choctaw, Cree, Sioux, Navajo, and many more were trained as code talkers. Sadly, 13 code talkers were KIA. Code talkers were used to the Korean War, but were discontinued through the early days of the Vietnam War. The Navajo code is the only unbroken code in modern warfare. After the war, the code talkers could not be properly recognized until 1968, when their operations were declassified. In 1982, President Ronald Reagan recognized the code talkers for their service and named August 24th Navajo Code Talkers Day. In 1989, the French government awarded the Comanche code talkers the Chevalier of the National Order of Merit. On December 21st, 2000, President Bill Clinton awarded the Congressional Gold Medal to the original 29 Navajo code talkers and silver medals to each of the other 300 code talkers. July of 2001, President George W. Bush presented the medal to 4 surviving original code talkers at a ceremony in Washington, D.C. Gold medals were also presented to the families of the 24 original code talkers no longer living. On September 17, 2007, 18 Choctaw code talkers were posthumously awarded the Texas Medal of Valor. On November 15, 2008, Code Talkers Recognition Act 2008 was signed into law by President George W. Bush. The act formally recognized every Native American code talker who served in the U.S. military during World War I or World War II. The Navajo code talkers played a significant part during World War II. Without them, who knows how the war would have turned out. One thing for sure, though, is that many battles would have been lost without them. Thank you for listening to me talk about the code talkers, and I hope you learned something new about them.
we get to do a Kahoot. So get your phones out, folks. And you may begin. Colton. Thank you. Good speech. Rhiannon, ready to rumble? Well, do your best.